on WTAM 1100. We, of course, for many, many years have headed up the Coats for Kids campaign, and as you well know, hopefully the campaign helps thousands of families and kids across Northeast Ohio in the cold wintertime around here when they're unable to have a new coat or even a coat, period. And over the years, you've been so kind with donating coats that we clean, and they look like new, and then through the distribution efforts and the help of the Salvation Army, we've put those on the backs of people in Northeast Ohio. And over the years, too, you've been very generous with your financial contributions. And with those financial contributions, we're able to buy new coats at a deeply discounted price and able to give families new coats. And every year, I get a chance to broadcast from the convention center when we have one of our distribution days and kind of stay behind the scenes, but watch some of the families as they come in. It's just amazing to see a family that, this is the only way they can put the coat on the back of a son or a daughter. Recently, our Coats for Kids campaign received an incredible donation, and I want to find out a little more about that. We've got Pat Perotti, I should say,
yes,
in
sir.
the studio this morning. Pat, good to see you, first of all.
Likewise.
Thank you for your time. How did we come about this money, first of all?
I'm an attorney who does class actions, and all your listeners probably at some time in their life got in the mail a little envelope that says you're part of a class action. And frankly, most of the people who get it will throw it away. But then if you figure that the defendant in those lawsuits has established a fund of a certain amount of money to distribute to a defined number of people, let's say it's $4 million to distribute to 30,000 people.
Okay.
When those people, at least half of them, don't send those mailers back in, they throw them away or they open them up and they never get around to sending them back in, that money doesn't get claimed. So where does the unclaimed money go? Do you have any idea where it would go?
No.
Most people think it goes to the lawyers.
Yeah, you guys split it up. That's all lawsuits are about anyway, right?
You
guys are the ones making all the money.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah,
but
we talk about that all the time. It's fact.
In fact, it doesn't go to the lawyers. It goes back to the defendant, which is unusual because the defendant has done something that caused it to say, okay, we have to settle this and we got to pay money out to these class members. And then they put the money in the fund, but then they get the money back. And as lawyers who represent the class members and lawyers who represent the better interest in society, we said something's wrong with this picture. There should be a different way to do this.
Because the companies, the organizations were fined, if you will. They were found that they did something wrong.
That's an equivalent, yes.
So then the money has to be paid. It's a charge, if you will, to them. I'm kind of breaking. I had 12 hours of law, okay?
Absolutely.
In college.
You're getting there.
But you were fined because you did something wrong. So this money has to be set aside. But on the other hand, if Pat and Pauline in Parma didn't return the little card that says, hey, you might get $5 if you return this.
Exactly.
That money still needs to go somewhere.
Exactly.
Okay.
So what we do is we say to the defendant, look, if you owe, let's say, $1 million, and the defendant says, well, we don't want to contribute any of this money anywhere other than to the fund because they know it's going to come back. We say we won't sign an agreement to settle it that way. We'll just go to judgment. We'll get a judgment for $1 million against you plus interest. And then we ask the judge, at that point, if the money isn't claimed, how much are you going to give back to the defendant? And the answer by the judge is none. I can't give any of it back to the defendant. And so we say to the defendant, instead of paying $1 million, what if you paid $500,000? Guaranteed $500,000. And that means that you have to pay every penny of that. So if there's no claims, you still have to pay it. And they say, well, where are we going to pay it? We say to charity. Of course, the judge says, can I do that? And there's a doctrine that originated in Roman law in the 300s. That's how old it is. It's called cypre. And what it means is, that's the current French term for it, and it means as completely as possible. And it causes the law to try to remedy as completely as possible this situation by saying if the money doesn't go back to the people who lost it, we'll give it to society. And the best way to give it to society is one of two ways. You can either give it to the government, not a good idea.
Right.
Or you can give it to a charity. And in this case, for example, from one lawsuit, over $1 million of unclaimed funds are being distributed to 9 different charities. And those include Adoption Network and Big Brothers and Big Sisters and Coats for Kids and Clothe a Child and St. Herman's Hunger Center and DARE. We gave a number of checks out the other day on the radio, on TV, on Channel 3 on the morning show. And the charities are picked very randomly, and we'd like people, we'll give you our number for our firm if you want. We'd like people to call in if they have charities that they think are doing a great job. We pick some of the charities, the defendant picks some of the charities, and the court has to approve them all.
And we being the law firm.
Yes, sir.
That you represent.
Yes, sir.
Right.
And that's Dworkin and Bernstein. And We try to pick charities that span a large range of causes. And the reason for that is that if you have 30,000 people in the class, and let's say 15,000 across Ohio don't claim their money, and you give all of it to the Heart Association, not necessarily all 15,000 of those people are going to have somebody who has some affiliation with a heart problem or heart condition.
Right.
But if you give it to drug education, and if you give it to drunk driving, and if you give it to hunger and clothing and shelter and all different causes, you're probably going to touch the lives of some of those 15,000 people more broadly. And that's why the charities are always so diverse and so community-oriented.
Well, on behalf of the Coats for Kids campaign, obviously, we certainly appreciate you looking out for the kids and the families that Coats for Kids helps with that donation you gave us.
It's something that, as you said, it's not just putting a coat on the back of those kids. That $125,000 is not only going to give a coat, it's going to give a kid self-esteem. Because when you see a little kid put a coat on, the smile on their face isn't because they're going to be warm. It's because they feel better about themselves, and they now fit into the group because they have a nice new little coat that they can go to school with. And God bless all those little kids.
Well said, my friend, and believe me, if you or any of the staff want to come down and hang with me on that day when we do a distribution, you'll see it for yourself.
Thanks for the invite.
Good to see you, Pat. Thanks much. There you go. We'll put some more information at WTAM.com on the Wills and Snyder page. Keyword Bill will get you there. You can find out more about the donation, the way it all worked with Coats for Kids. And, as Pat said, if you have a charity that you think you would like for them to consider, okay? There'll be a link up there. You can get some information to them and take you through the process and all.